Okay. Nope, not that either. Bam. Alright. So we're going to do a quick study, okay? So this is going to be our quick study for Chapter 9. We got 11 questions to do. I'm going to go somewhat fast, but you can always go back and, rewind the video, or how do you say rewind, go back to the certain problems and get through them. Let's start off, though, with a quick message. So here it is. This is our message for today, which is from Jody Wheeler. She lives in Arizona. And this is our little devotion for today here. It says a war zone is an area where conflict is ongoing. Inside that zone, there is disorder and disarray. Sometimes we feel as though we are living in a war zone. Life gets hectic, chaotic, and messy. We may be tempted to run away from all of it. Okay? Good news is that God gives us peace, but we may have to seek out a peace zone. We need to find a place to be alone with God and seek divine peace to carry us through the day. One's peace zone may be a closet, a bedroom, a patio, or even the bathroom. It does not matter what we choose. The important thing is that we set aside time to seek God. In turn, God will strengthen us with a peace that passes understanding to enable us to get through the battles of everyday life. Seeking God each day keeps the chaos at bay. Okay? Very good. Come here, TT. Come here. We also got a visitor today. Come here. There's little Teddy. Ooh, easy. She's a long-haired dachshund. She's here watching us today. Right, Teddy? You got bad breath? Yeah. Okay, Teddy. Woo! Alright. So Teddy's here with us too. But anyway, let's look at some problems. Let's do some accounting. Yes, accounting. Alright. Here's our first one. Okay, remember we're dealing with receivables, but this first one's not really a receivable problem because it's dealing with a third-party credit card transaction. Now you see here, it does say MasterCard for the first one, then assorted bank credit cards for the second one. Okay, so what's going on here is it's a retail store, and they're taking credit cards to charge purchases. Now, in this case, when you're dealing with a MasterCard or a bank credit card, there is no accounts receivable here. Okay, the bank or MasterCard is going to pay cash to the store that's making this sale. Now, it's going to probably be at the end of the night, but they will get the cash that day. If this dealt with if it said that there was a store credit card, like a Lowe's card or a Belk card, if you know what Belk is, or like a Home Depot card, then that transaction would create a accounts receivable at that for Lowe's or for Home Depot or for Belk. But here, the company's going to get cash. Now, the credit card company is going to charge a fee, and we'll have to account for that. Okay? So, here's my little board for number one. All right? It's already pre-filled out. I got my pen here as well. The very first two words tells you a part of your entry. Well, one's a number, right? But that's really, you can say those words. So, sold $20,000. Okay? That is the first part of entry, which is to record the sales of $20,000. Okay, so here's our $20,000 credit to sales for number one, like such. Okay, and there's a 5% fee. 5%, man, that's a pretty big percentage, right? How much is 5% of $20,000? Can I do that in my head? $1,000? I think it is $1,000. Whoop. Okay, let me do the math just to make sure. I don't want to be times 0.05. Yeah, $1,000. Okay, so there's going to be a $1,000. This is down here. It says credit card expense, right? $1,000 credit card expense. How much cash will the company get? Here we go. That's going to be the $20,000 minus the fee. So they're going to get $19,000 for number one, okay? So there's number one. And I'll type it in here in a second. Now the second entry here is to do the cost of sales entry. We'll do that in a minute. So let's move on to number three, where it's dealing with essentially the second line up there, okay? So, and then again, the first two letters, or the first two words, I say again, it's a number again, tells you what to put in sales. Sold $5,000, okay? So over here, $5,000. I'm going to put a 3 here, even though it's that second line, because it's going to be the third journal entry, right? And then it's, what, a 4%? So I got $5,000 times 0.04. This will be a $200 expense. Okay, for number three. How much cash will they get? Well, that's going to be the sales minus the expense. So what, $4,800 for number three. All right, let's key these in. All right. The first one, we got our cash debit, $19,000. We got our credit card expense, $1,000. Sales, $20,000. Nice and easy, right? Now let's go to the oh, this is the wrong problem. Look at that. Oh, let's change the numbers at least. Okay, let's just change the numbers. So this was what, 5,000, 200, 4,800. There we go. So let's go back to number one and put it in the right way. Cash, 19,000. Credit card expense, 1,000. Oop. Sales. There we go. Okay. Now let's do our cost of goods sold entries here. So both of these shows cost of sales. It gives you the numbers, and it says it's a perpetual system. So we got to make the immediate entry after the sales recorded of taking it away from inventory and putting it into cost of goods sold. Okay, so we need to do a debit. We need to do a debit of cost of goods sold. How much is that again? The first one's $15,000. Okay, $15,000. And then we're going to take it away or subtract it from inventory, right? Come on, I can't type right now. There we go. And then we got to do that same entry again for number 4, which is dealing with this $3,000 cost, okay? So cost of goods sold, $3,000. Merchandise inventory, $3,000. Bam, easy, done. Check our work. Uh-oh. Oh, I got those backwards. Let's fix that. Hopefully, when I was typing it in, you were realizing that I was doing it wrong, right? So let's fix it real quick. Yes, so remember the sales was $5,000, and the cash collected was the sales minus the expense of $4,800. So I just working too fast and got a little careless. There we go. That's the benefit of checking your work, right? So there we go, nice and easy. Number 2, direct write-off, okay? Direct write-off. So here we go. Solstice Company. Okay, let me get my board ready. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I should let that one cash. There you go. It's okay. Alright. Cash. AR over here. And then bad debts expense. Yes. Yes, yes. Okay. So here's the deal. Here's the situation. So somewhere within our accounts receivable, now there's probably more in there than just that $50,000, but in accounts receivable, so this is going to be like our beginning balance, but there could be more. But definitely within this account is, oh, you know what? Let's make it specific to that person. How about that? P more, right? Alright. So this is the accounts receivable account for Mr. Moore or Mrs. Moore, whoever. And you can see that there's a debit here. It's accounts receivable. So they owe us $50,000. And what's happened here is it says that we've determined that we're not going to collect it. Okay, that's a lot of money to lose, right? But P. Moore's, they're bankrupt and they're not going to pay us, and we got to get rid of it. Okay, at some point, we had sales in the amount of $50,000, as you see on the screen there, right? So we had sales of $50,000. So our income has been increased by $50,000 from the other side of this transaction getting here, right? So the other side of this transaction would be sales. So that sales would be increasing, okay, increasing our income. Now, if we do nothing, okay, then we'll have income go up and we'll pay taxes on that income. But if this debt's not collected, then we want to get that debt into expense so we can lower that income and therefore pay less taxes because we didn't make that $50,000, we didn't collect it, right? So we lost that money as opposed to making it. So for this direct write-off, we need to get it out of accounts receivable. So we need to do a $50,000. So this is that beginning balance, right? The BB is the $50,000. So the $50,000, this is going to be, I'll put number 1 here. To take it away, this is going to be a credit to accounts receivable. To zero it out, you see that would be 0. And then we're going to put it into, down here at the bottom, bad debt expense. Okay, for number 1. So now that $50,000 is in an expense account and will lower income by $50,000 because we didn't collect it. And then before it was in sales somewhere, right? All right, so let's type it in. And I think the next problem we're going to collect it again. We got to do some work back again, okay? So let's go. Bad debts expense, $50,000. Receivable for Mr. Moore or Mrs. Moore, who knows? $50,000. Bang. Easy. Check it. Done. Okay? Easy right there, right? So let's go on to our next one. Number 3. Okay, number 3. Here we go. So this is a continuation. So now we're going to have to reinstate, reinstate and then collect this money. So thankfully, P. Moore unexpectedly paid his account to Solstice. So we thought we weren't going to get it. We wrote it off, okay? And so now we need to reinstate, or essentially reverse what we just did, and then collect it by showing the cash coming in. So the first thing we got to do on our little board here, look at my pen top. So I need to reverse this. I got to put it back. Okay, I'm going to put it back into accounts receivable. So I'll put it back into accounts receivable. I'm going to put number 2 here, but as you see on the problem, it's actually number 1, right? Because it's a continuation of the previous problem. This number 1 is from problem 2. This number 2 is number 3, part 1, okay? And then down here, I'm going to remove it from the expense. It's no longer expense because we collected it. So we will actually take it away from that expense account for part 2. So that's a reversal there, right? So it's essentially the exact opposite. Ugh, drop the pen too. It's the exact opposite of the previous problem. One second, I'm having a little crisis here. Sorry, keep my bald spot. Alright. Boom. Alright. So, we're going to debit that receivable for Mr. Moore for $50,000. And this is going to be that bad debts expense credit of $50,000. Okay, so there's us reversing. It's the exact opposite of number 2. It's a reversal. Okay, and now for number 2, the second part, we're actually going to receive the cash. Okay, so the second part, all right, so you see the current balance of bad debts expense is 0. This is all washed out, right? Went in, came right back out. And then up here, the current balance of accounts receivable is $50,000 because those two cancel each other out. So there's $50,000 in there as well. Now we got to take it away from here and show it showing up in cash, right? So this will be 3, even though it's 2, right? So it's the third transaction, but it's question 3, part 2. All right, so we got that $50,000 coming in here for number 3. And then $50,000 for number 3 there as well. So once we finish up, this is 0, that's 0. There's our cash being collected, okay? Let's type it in. Okay. Cash, 50 grand. Receivables for Mr. Moore, 50 grand. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Questions on number 3. There's a couple people watching. Let me know. Otherwise, we're going to keep moving on to number 4. Got to keep making progress. Okay. Okay. So this is a little bit confusing, but so we're using the allowance method now as opposed to the direct write-off method. We're going to use the allowance method instead. Okay. Let me reset the board here real quick. It's going to be a minute. Let's see. Cash. AR. What's this people's names here? Sea Green. Bad. Okay, this is probably going to be difficult to follow, but we'll get through it. I probably should move this after some of the other questions in the book. But anyway, in the section. So here's our accounts involved. Okay, you got cash, you got the receivable account of Mr. Green or Mrs. Green. You've got the thing called allowance. It says allowance for DA over here. The DA stands for doubtful accounts. I always make a little joke saying that the DA is Dumbledore's army. If anybody's watched, was it Harry Potter part 6? I think so. Where they go through the room of requirement and do all the good training, right? And then over here, bad debts expense, okay? So when you use the allowance method, okay, whenever the sales are recorded, there's usually an entry that puts money into this allowance for doubtful accounts, okay? Obviously, we're not going to see that in these numbers, but we're going to go through the process, okay? So whenever you use the indirect method, which is this is what this problem is, we want to make sure that we are not touching bad debts only if we are recording sales, okay? Or making end-of-the-month adjustments. So something like this, a write-off, we don't touch bad debts. Okay, so let's do the write-off here. So it says on January 31st, we wrote off an $800 balance. So we're going to say our beginning balance here will be $800. So this will be our BB for Green, okay? $800, okay? Now, but we're going to write it off, okay? So we're going to do a write-off for number 1, And the previous problem, we went straight to bad debts expense. Okay, but this is an indirect method, or the allowance method. So instead, we're going to use the allowance. We're going to debit the allowance instead of debiting bad debts expense. So we'll put that 800 down here for number 1. Okay? And then the second thing says, well, surprisingly, Green made a partial payment. And we don't expect him to pay more. If he does, great, but we don't think he will. So we need to do a partial reversal to reinstate that $300, and then we'll collect the $300. So the second part is a reversal of number 1, but only for $300. So we'll take $300 back to the allowance, credit it for number 2, and we're going to debit that receivable like so. And now, the third thing, we're going to collect that cash. So we'll have that $300 debit to cash and that $300 credit to the receivable to collect it properly, okay? So that's our series of entries. I'll type them in now. At no point did I touch bad debt expense because this is allowance method, the indirect method. You only touch it when you record sales or you make end of month adjustments, okay? Here we go. Let's do it. Here we go. Our first part, let me show you on number 1 here, the $800 write-off. So we're going to do a debit to allowance of $800. And we're going to credit receivables for Green, $800. That's the first part. Second part, reinstate, partial reversal, a $300 reversal. So we're going to do the receivables for Mr. Green, $300, allowance, $300 credit. Okay, partial reversal, and now we'll collect that cash. Okay, the cash comes in. And what we got here? Oh, we're removing from the receivable the amount we reinstated. Wow, that's it. Not too bad, right? A little confusing, but ultimately the entries are not too difficult, okay? So there's that. Let's continue on to number 5. All right. We've got some numbers to deal with. Let's deal with these numbers. We love numbers, right? I love numbers. Did I lose my paper towel? Oh, here it is. My handy eraser down here. Estimate adjusted receivables. Okay. So I need sales. I don't think I need cash here. Let's do this. Do a full reset to make sure I get my board looking good. I got some beginning numbers I can put in too. So we got accounts receivable, $99. We got the allowance account. I'm just going to put allowance. That is for doubtful accounts, so it's allowance for doubtful accounts. Has a $600 credit in it. We got sales. Has $280,000. Okay. All right. So what do you see here? Okay, so it says here, Warner Company year-end adjustment trial balance shows that accounts receivable was $99,000. The allowance for doubtful accounts is a $600 credit. That's on the credit side. And it says here that the sales is $280,000. It says here that uncollectibles are estimated to be 1.5% of accounts receivable. So what we need to do is we need to force this allowance to equal 1.5% of this number. And that should be a credit. Okay? So let's figure out what that number is first. I got my calculator here. What we got? We got $99,000. Okay? You see my calculator, $99,000. Okay? I'm going to multiply it, so times 0.015. Okay? 1.5%. $1,485. All right. So, my allowance account needs to equal $1,485. So, this, I need a credit here to force this number to be 1.5% of this number, right? That a dollar amount is going to be $885. That's the credit I must make, okay? Now, where do I put it? There's nowhere to put it here, okay? I need to add that bad debts expense, and that's where I'll put that $885. This is a year end, or it's a end of the period adjustment, which I just said the only time you ever touch bad debt expense is whenever you're recording sales. These are already recorded, right? They told us they were already recorded. But in here, we're making an adjustment. Okay, we're making an adjustment. So there's our entry. Debit bad debt expense, credit the allowance for $885. Look at this money. Look at that money right there. Okay? Let's go forward to number 6. Trying to go fast because it's a fairly long, quick study. Uh-oh, there's something down here at the bottom. Oh, look at that. I made a mistake. That's okay. Let's look at the bottom real quick. It says, what amount would have been used as a year-ending adjustment? A year-ending adjustment if... So it says if we had a different balance here. So... Oh, I just messed that up. It's okay. That bottom question, just to see it real quick. I get that black on my face. It's alright if I do. That's alright. I don't care. You guys can laugh at me. It's fine. Okay, so it says if this was a debit balance up here for allowance of $300, okay, and we still have to get that same number. Was it $1,485? I think that's right. What does my calculator say? Yeah, okay. So at this point, what will we need over here? 1785, right? So that would be the difference. So that would be the adjustment if that's what we did. You see, it's actually down there at the bottom of the screen. If you look closely, it shows you this. There it is, okay? But I like my method better. That's okay. All right, I missed that part. I was too hasty. Don't miss it when you do it. You probably will if you're watching the video, right? So, there you go. Number 6. Okay. Okay, good. I can kind of use this board if I can not damage my T's too bad. 99,000. Okay, I'm trying to do a quick reset here. It says that we got 600 in the allowance account. It says we got 140. So the sales number did change. I don't know why, but that's okay. Okay. Now, remember the previous problem was different. The previous problem said uncollectibles were 1.5% of accounts receivable. This one's different. This one says uncollectibles are 1% of the sales. When we do percentage of sales, we don't have to force this allowance account to work, okay? All we got to do is calculate the 1%, and that's the adjustment, okay? So what we'll do, it says that sales is $140,000. Excuse me, $140,000. That's our sales. Multiply that times 1%. Whoop. Okay. And we get $1,400. That's our adjustment. Okay. That's the adjustment. Where does it go? Okay. We're going to do a debit to bad debt expense. We're going to do a credit to the allowance. So our ending amount of our allowance would be $2,000. Okay. Whoop. Sorry about that. Breaking my board here. Let's do it. Bad debts expense. $1,400. Allowance. It's almost like me tripping over that darn map in the classroom, right? Over and over. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so here we go. All right. Net Zero Products. A wholesaler of sustainable raw materials. Prepare the following. Okay, this is an aging schedule. Okay, so here's the full amount of accounts receivable, and you see most of it is less than a month old. Then you get, what is this? How am I reading this? Am I reading it right? 0 days. Oh, this is past due. Yeah. So this is less than a month old. This is, essentially 1 month old to 2 months old. So you got to read it kind of funny, right? Because it says days past due. So if it's like in 30, then it's actually at the end of the 30 days. So it depends on the shipping terms too, I guess. But not shipping terms, but the credit terms. 1% is past due, is uncollectible here. 3% of this amount's not collectible. You got 5%, 8%, and 11%. Remember what I said the other day, if you watched the video, the older receivables get, the more likely they will not be collected. No problem, Josh. All right, so let's do this. All right, so let's do this. Let's figure out the amount that our allowance needs to be. So we start off, we got $80,000 that is not late. And that's going to be a 0.01%. I gotta change that to 1%. 1% there. We got the 18,000, 3%. We got the 7,200 at 5%. We've got the 4,000 at 8%. And we got 6,000. Oh, I typed in 600. 6,000. All right. So the estimated balance in the allowance account needs to be a credit. It's always a credit, okay? It needs to be a credit of $2,680, okay? So remember, this is percentages of accounts receivable. So we have to force the allowance to equal this amount of $2,680, okay? So part 2 says, okay, so part 2, what does it say? It says, well, what if, okay, there's a what if here. Okay, we can ignore these first couple numbers. We only need one side of the board here. It says, well, what if the allowance has a $1,000 credit balance to start, okay? So essentially what it says, right? Ooh, easy. Okay, what if we start with $1,000? Well, where do we have to get? I just showed you on the previous one that we have to get to $2,680. Okay, $2,680. So we have to have an ending amount here of $2,680. Okay, so camera. So we need a credit here of $1,680. My 6 doesn't look very good, but I think you can make it out. We need a $1,680 credit, and we'll do that by putting a debit into bad debts expense. Remember, because it's a percentage of accounts receivable, we have to force it to equal that percentage. If it was percentage of sales, we wouldn't have to do that. We would just dump it in there and go. Okay, so that's the difference between those two methods. It is in the textbook if you want to read that and clarify. Okay, so the amount of our, again, $1,680 is our dollar amount for this entry. where we have that bad debts expense, 1680, and we got allowance for 1680. Like I said, this is a difficult topic to try to cover in an online session, but hopefully you're surviving it, okay? So that's number 7. Moving on to number 8. Okay, I thought we were closer to done than we are. It's okay. Oh, this is some... Okay, so this is some... I forgot this one here. This is some... Figuring out some interest, okay? Figuring out some interest. All right, so what we got? Excel. I need Excel. Because Excel can do some pretty neat things. Do I want that big? That's fine. We'll do it over here. Let's see, we got what? March 1st. We got March 1st, then we got May 15th. May 15. And then we also got October 20th. Okay, let's make this bigger to see. Here's my zoom. Let's go big. Okay, go big or go home, right? All right, and so this is going to be what the first one says. It's a 60-day note. This is going to be a 90-day note. This is going to be a 45-day note. All right. So maturity month, maturity date. Now, one thing that you can do. This is going to be PRT. We'll get to it in a minute. Okay, we'll get to the formula in a minute. So this is interest. We're calculating interest, which has something to do with accounts receivable, as you'll see here in a minute. All right. One thing that Excel can do that you may not have known of is it can actually do date math. Date math, okay? So if I were to do equals and say March 1st is my start and add to it 60 days, then it comes up with April 30th. Okay, it does the date math for us, okay? We'll do the same thing here. We'll do equals May 15th. We're going to add to it 90 days or plus 90 to get August 13th. So it does all that, 31st or the 30th type of stuff. It's kind of built in, okay? I don't have to know it. I don't have to count digits either. Look at the map. And then or the calendar, I should say, not the map. Then this last one here, we'll do October 20th plus 45 to get December 4th. So over here, we got April 30th. Okay. Oh. Okay. That's not. I'm typing too fast here. There we go. Our next one is August 13th. Then the last one, December 4th. Now, so PRT is the formula here. So the formula, I'm going to type it out. Interest equals principal times, let's do rate times time. All right. So principal is the amount borrowed, rate is the rate of interest, T is time. The time must be expressed in years. All right. I got it all out. So if we're going to do this math, then we got to figure it out. Okay, so the principal on the first note there, it's going to be what, $10,000. 0.06 is the conversion of decimal to that percentage, right? And then we got over here. Now look what I do here. Okay, I'm going to do equals. This is going to be a formula. Equals 60 divided by 360. Okay, I want to figure out the time in terms of years. Okay, so it's going to be, there's that repeating number there. Okay, so if I do the equals here, it's going to be this times times the last one, PRT, right? So it looks like it's $100. Let me double check before I make any mistakes. Okay, good. Back to Excel real quick. So that's the first one, right? So this is number 1, this is 2, this is 3. The amount borrowed for the second one is what, $15,000. The rate is 8%. And then again, I'm gonna do this here. This equals, was it 90 divided by 316? 25%. That last one's gonna be 8,000, 0.04% or 4%, and then 45 divided by 316. Okay. So the math again is the principal times the rate times the time in year, and we'll do it one more time. Principal times the rate times time. Okay, so I got 300 and then 40. This was December 4th. Still moving forward. All right. Number 9. Okay, here we go. We received a note. Okay, so the first thing is, well, I can just use Excel right for that first part. Okay, what we got here? We got receipt of the note. Okay. From Mr. Albany. I'm just going to do AR. Okay, so let's go back to Excel for our date math. It says here that it's going to be in 90 days after August 2nd. So if I just come down here and do Aug2 and do 90 for the days, I do equals the 2nd of August plus 90 days, Halloween. Okay, so Halloween's our date, so that's the 31st. Okay, now it says record the receipt of note on account. So what's going on here? Look what it says. On August 2nd, John Co. received a $6,000 90-day 12% note from the customer as payment on his $6,000 accounts receivable. Okay. So this knucklehead, Mr. Albany, okay, owed us $6,000. Okay, he hasn't paid it yet. We keep complaining with him. He says, look, if I can get 90 more days, I can pay you, and I can pay you with interest, okay? So what's going on in this transaction is we are shifting away from notes receivable, away from accounts receivable, and we're going to put it into notes receivable. So what's notes receivable? Well, it's money owed to us, but now we'll have a legal document to detail the amount. And that way, if he doesn't pay, it'll be easier for us to take it to court and get them to pay it, okay? So all this part, this here is a reclassification from accounts receivable to notes receivable, okay? And that entry, okay, we gotta subtract it. Oh, that's $6,000, not $5,000. Subtract that $6,000 and add it to the notes receivable, okay? So debit notes receivable, credit accounts receivable is the entry. Let's do that entry. Notes receivable for Albany, 6,000. Accounts receivable Albany, 6,000. Check my work. Okay, complete and correct. All right. Number 10. So the next thing we got to do is to receive his payment plus the interest, and this is going to be on Halloween, like he said he was going to do, okay? So he's going to pay us on Halloween, okay? Great. We love getting money, right? I love getting money. Hopefully you do too. Okay, you got some cash. Okay. We got to figure out how much money we're going to get in terms of interest. So we'll have to have some interest revenue. Interest revenue, all right? So again, that formula is going to be PRT. I equals PRT. I equals, well, the principal is $6,000. The rate, 12%. And the time, remember the time must be expressed in a year, okay? 90, 360. A fourth, okay? Fourth, okay? So let's go ahead and we'll pop it back in our Excel sheet real quick so we can see it. So this is, I'll put 10 here because it's problem number 10. Okay, again, it's $6,000. The rate is 12%, 0.12, and it's going to be, this is going to be that 90 divided by 360, 25%. So the math will be 6,000 times 12% times 25%, $180, okay? So we're going to receive some cash when Albany pays us. It'll be $6,000 plus the interest that he paid. So the cash will be $6,000 plus 180, $6,180, okay? Hopefully you can follow that logic, okay? We have to remove the note, okay? He paid the note in full, okay? So we need to subtract the notes receivable by $6,000. So notes receivable for Albany will be credited by $6,000. And now we got to do something with that 180. Well, that's interest income or interest revenue, okay? Revenue. So interest revenue will be $80. We earn that because we assumed the risk that he wouldn't pay it. Looks beautiful, okay? We got one more. This is probably that hard one. This would be great to do in class, but I can't. That's okay. Because it's going to be actually part of it's cut off, so it won't be too bad. All right. Accepts a note from a customer. We want to record the interest revenue at the 31st, and then collection net. Oh, this is going to be a little bit complicated. It's okay. It's okay. Let's see. We do need cash. We're going to need notes receivable. Note receivable. The good thing is this is our last one. This has been a pretty long stream, but we're almost done. Note receivable. We're going to need interest receivable. We'll write it all out. Then we're going to have interest can't spell revenue. Okay, so the note is $10,000. Okay, so this is where we're starting, right? This is where we're going to start. We've got $10,000 in notes receivable. Okay, we're going to do the rest. Okay, so the first thing is let's get my Excel back up here. Let's add a column here because I'm going to do 11 right here. And let me insert another column here. We're going to call this 11A. 11A. Now it looks like it's a 11B. One like this. Do 11C also. All right. Okay. So let's figure out. So 11C is going to be the total amount of interest. Okay. So this is going to be our $10,000. Okay, it's a 45-day note, so it's 6%, so 0.06. Okay, and it is 45 days. So it's going to be equals 45 times. Divided by 360. Okay, so the PRT here is going to be 10,000 times 6% times the 12.5%, the 12, whatever, an eighth. Okay, $75 is all we're talking about in terms of interest revenue in this problem. Okay, so, but the problem here is, see, this starts on December 1st, okay? So if we're talking about December 1st, DEC1, okay, we're talking 45 days, right? That math, okay, is going to be plus 45. January 15th is when we're going to, collect the money, okay? The problem is there, it's a year end, okay? So the year end, we have to stop and see, okay, well, how much did we earn? And we got to do an accrual, which is Chapter 3 business, okay? So we're going way back to Chapter 3 to do this problem, all right? So let me just pull up a good old calendar here and do this the fingers away, I guess, to go to December. Okay. So December 1st, okay, there's no interest on that first day. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So 30 days, okay? Even though there's 31 days in December, you don't get charged interest until the next day, okay? 30 days of this are interest in the month of December, okay? So how much of the revenue needs to be charged in December, okay? In December. So what we got to do is it's going to be the $10,000. Okay, the 0.06 is the percentage. And now we're going to do it for 30 days, okay? So equals, I did something wrong. Equals 30 divided by 360. Okay. So equals this times this times this, $50, okay, as you can imagine, okay? And then the other 15 days of the 45 are going to be in January, okay? So that $10,000, okay, 0.06 equals 15 divided by 360. And that math, let's just cheat, do it this way. Pull it down to $25, all right? So, what we need to do at the end of December, okay, is an accrual. So in December, we need to record that we now are owed $50. Okay. And we need to record that as revenue that's earned in December. Very confusing, right? But we need to, we want to record the money in the month it's earned. It was earned in December. So we know how much it is. Let's go ahead and do that entry. Okay. So that entry, I just did it on the board, right? Interest, receivable, $50. Interest revenue, $50. So now on the second entry, when we are paid, okay? Well, when we are paid, we're going to get $10,000 plus the 75. So the cash received will be $10,075. Okay, that's number 2. So let's type it in real quick. Cash 1075. Okay. Now we need to remove the notes receivable. Okay, that's our first credit. Notes. I can't spell the word note, evidently. Notes receivable, $10,000. Okay? We only want to record as revenue the actual amount that was earned in January, which is the 15 days or the $25. Okay, so this will be interest revenue. Let me scroll this down a little bit. Will be $25. Okay, now realize we just collected this. This interest receivable has just been collected, so we need to remove it as our last piece of the puzzle. Okay, so that $50 will be removed. We just collected it for number 2. Okay, and let's do that. Oh, let me circle this 2 over here. Okay, receivable, interest receivable, $50. Okay, so look at the net result. Okay, this is gone. This is gone. You've got the $10,075 collected here. You see the $50. This was actually recorded in December. The $50 was in December. This was done in January, so it's split between the 2 years. Okay. All right. So, marathon session, right? Beautiful. Okay. That completes the unit, chapter 9 quick study. I know it was long, but it was a lot to cover, and we will continue on to chapter 10 next week. Check Blackboard for assignments. Question number 2. Question number 2 is this for the week. Nice and easy. Again, trying to get to know who you are, kind of what you like. Give me your favorite singer or band. Okay, so let's go with that. I think if I had to do a favorite band, probably be a toss-up between, like, I used to like Dave Matthews a lot. I also like Journey a lot. So probably between those two, right? There's a bunch of them I like, though. But if I had to do 2 top ones, it would probably be those 2. Regardless, have a great weekend. We'll be back Monday for more accounting. Get your work done. Contact me if you need help. Let's get it done, guys. So have a great weekend. God bless. We'll see you next week.